Today, we are going to create a crypto bookmark folder for your daily crypto routine. My own special daily crypto routine. You are going to check these best crypto websites and cryptocurrency research tools every morning before opening a new position for scalping, day or swing trading, or even investing. You will learn about the most critical news, trending cryptocurrencies, social media consensus, market sentiments, how to use Google News, and discover the best cryptos to scalp, day trade, swing trade, or invest. Hello friends, hope you're doing great. Today I'm gonna show you the best crypto websites and my personal crypto bookmark folder that I check every single day. I check these websites once in the morning and before opening a position by typing the ticker name to see what is happening. These are extremely helpful and easy to use crypto websites and research tools. If you're ready, let's start. Before we start, I want you to understand how I trade. My trading life involves 3 steps. First step, morning routine, checking all these crypto websites and research tools, just to understand what is happening in the world. What are governments doing? What are people talking about? New deals or contracts, trying to understand the overall consensus of the crypto world. Second step, high time frame analysis, working on technical analysis of selected securities. I generally start doing this by analyzing Bitcoin and Ethereum for cryptocurrencies. I mostly look at weekly, daily, and hourly time frames to understand market direction. Third step, low time frame analysis for finding proper setups and setting up alarms. Just hovering altcoins or analyzing the trending coins to find proper price action setups to trade. After a high time frame analysis of my selected coins, I look for what is happening at 1 hour, 30, 15, or 5 minutes most of the time. If I'm not busy, I also look for a scalp with 5 or 3 minutes. However, scalping is not my first choice. I sometimes do this just to practice my trading skills. Then I focus on my other work such as programming, freelance jobs, or watching my favorite TV shows. First, we are going to identify the trending and the hottest cryptocurrencies for trading or investing. Ape Wisdom is one of my #1 choices. It crawls the most important and the biggest subreddits and gathers the most trending cryptocurrencies. So when you trade anything such as stocks, forex, or cryptocurrencies, you need volume. Volume comes from the number of people trading the asset. Simply, volume means high activity. This is what I want before trading. If you check low time frames, these coins could be heaven for trading bull flags and bear flags, or pure price action concepts with market structure breaks. Get in and out quickly, grab a bite from movements. I suggest you check the top 10 trending cryptocurrencies on this website once every morning. Do a technical analysis on them. The next trend website is Quantify Crypto Terminal. This is a neat and easy to use website. First of all, I love heat maps. It gives me a glance of the day, seeing how are the most popular coins doing, what is the general direction of the market. You can check daily top 20 popular coins and daily winners and losers easily here. All are listed in this lovely section. What I'm interested in is this trend column right here. You click and sort out the coins. Then I go analyze those coins. Are they making steady higher highs and higher lows, or just single pumps or dumps? Furthermore, once you click on a ticker, it opens a specific terminal to that single coin. On the right, you can read about the crypto and its main goal quickly. The most important part that I focus on is this little box here to watch the news. Before I enter a trade for even scalping, the first thing I do is open this website and check the news and general trend. However, there are even better news websites which I will show you soon in this video. My favorite news website of all times. Please keep watching and subscribe for more good stuff and never miss a video. The bonus website is alternative.me, Fear and Greed Index. As Warren Buffett says, be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. This website is more useful for investors, position traders, and swing traders rather than day traders. However, I check this website once every single morning. Anyway, as you can see in my trades, I mostly enter trades around the end of the pullback, after candlesticks like pin bars or hammers. The stage of hope is when you open long positions because it is right after fear. The stage of regret is when you open short positions or take profits from your long positions because it comes right after greed. The beauty of this index is the data sources, mixed sources to get the final results, such as volatility, volume, social media, dominance, trends. The site explains everything clearly. Extreme fear is when to start searching for long positions. Just look for the market structure breaks with the price action setups. High greed is when you start taking profits from your positions and investments and starting to search for short positions. Because believe me, greed is when divergence or market structure breaks happen. A correction is sooner than you think. I would suggest you check this index once a day, every morning. Let's move on to the best cryptocurrency news and social media consensus websites. The Crypto Panic. This is an amazing crypto news and social media aggregator that crawls all the web and finds the trending and hot crypto subjects from all over the world. Every single crypto trader and investor should check these websites multiple times a day. What do I exactly check here? Are there any new crypto deals or contracts made? Are there any new crypto policies or regulations? Are there any new crypto projects official updates? What is happening on social media? What are the top hyping and trending cryptocurrencies? What is the latest government approach to cryptos? Is the Fed talking about cryptocurrencies? Are there any new companies that accept coins as their payment methods? So anything that may affect the crypto world for positive or negative reasons. What else do I do with the crypto panic? After I scan and find possible setups and I set my alarms in TradingView, while I wait for my entry alarms, I type the ticker, such as Bitcoin, the ticker is BTC, and check out the news and social media consensus. This is extremely critical. You do not want to short a crypto that is having excellent news and extremely popular that day. You will short it when the time is right, when we reach the peak point of greed with divergence or waiting for a market structure break. Instead, you may ride the waves by trading bull flags with higher highs and higher lows. So check the ticker before entering a position. Secondly, Messari News. I love Messari News. It's neat, it's organized, and it is very easy to use. It is more limited compared to Crypto Panic, but the layout is amazing. Nothing is confusing here. What I look for here are the official updates, which are generally medium blog posts, and get direct news from the crypto project itself. I check this website at least once a day. The next news crawler is Google News. Now I'm gonna teach you how to use Google News. There are specific subjects I look for in the last 24 hours. So type these special keywords, crypto, Fed, and then click to past 24 hours. And now bookmark this page. Next, you do it for crypto policy and crypto regulations. Click to the past 24 hours and bookmark them all. So what I do here, entering the most important keywords that affect the cryptocurrencies and targeting specific news among millions of data daily. The most critical news about cryptocurrencies are Fed crypto talks, crypto policies, and crypto regulations. Because governments want to control these decentralized networks and projects. These are the number one catalysts that affects the cryptocurrencies. So simply, more restrictive crypto regulations or crypto policies are bad for cryptocurrencies. Vice versa, no regulations or policy news or any positive news is great for coins. Also, the Fed is controlling the biggest and most critical money supply in the world and managing the monetary policy's interest rates. You should know everything Fed says or take action. It does not matter if you live in Mars and produce Martian toys, it still impacts you. Okay folks, another adventure ends here. These are the best crypto websites and research tools that I check every single morning and before trading cryptocurrencies. Just create your bookmark folder like me and make it a daily crypto routine. Then start checking the hottest and trending cryptocurrencies before trading or investing. I hope you subscribe to the channel and like the video. Please take care and see you soon.